The last time I used this generator was over 10 years ago when we were circle track racing, and it just shut off and quit running. We were almost done with circle track racing. We were losing interest in racing, and I had no interest in working on the generator, so it just sat here. So now we're going drag racing, and I'd like to have power when we're in Sykeston, so we're going to see if we can get this thing running again. I've already got the oil filter off because I had to see what number it was. I went and got a filter, and we're going to change the oil, put plugs in it, pull it apart, clean the carburetor, and adjust the valves, and then see if it'll fire up. All right, looks like our gaskets survived, so we should be able to get this back together without having to find gaskets for it. So you have to take the intake off because you got to get this cover back here off. It would probably be easier to take the exhaust off, but being as I have the exhaust mounted to the side of the frame and I'd have to take all this off, I think it's going to be easier to just wiggle this cover out from underneath there and try not to get any dirt. The valve adjustments are down underneath these two covers. Get those covers off. Of course, we broke our gasket on the back one back there. Let's see what we can figure out there. Okay, so we're gonna adjust our valves to 8 thousandths on the intake and 13 on the exhaust because, or no, sorry, 8 and 12 because I don't have a 13 thousandths feeler gauge. That seems to be what is recommended, so we're gonna go with it. And if you put a 3/8 Allen wrench in the end of the generator here, you can turn the motor over. And I've got this so that the valves on this cylinder are both completely closed. So intake is this one here. We're going to set that one to 8 thousandths. And it's a little tight. And these don't have any kind of lock nut. They're kind of like just resistive. I don't know. That's probably why I was told when this quit running that it probably needed the valves adjusted. So that's probably all I needed to do way back then. But now it's gonna need other stuff done as well. Okay, so it has a lash cap, so that's why I was having trouble getting the feeler gauge in there. There was no clearance there. I thought it was going a long ways to get the adjustment. So that feels pretty good on that one. The exhaust feels all right too. So now we'll go to the next one. Being as this is a 4-stroke, we should be able to just turn this over 180 degrees. And this side should be loose, and they are. So this is our intake side. And it's super tight. Okay. And our exhaust side, it's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and just loosen the exhaust up just a hair, because I think it's supposed to be a 13 thousandths and I don't have one, so we're going to go with a very loose 12. It's a very loose 12. All right, now we just got to clean this up, figure out a gasket, and put it all back together. So for our gasket, we're going to use a little Permatex number 2 because I don't have a gasket and it only tore in 2 spots. And then since the last person who worked on this put a little RTV on these bolts, and we're just going to assume that they knew what they were doing, we're going to do the same. Also, I don't see how it can possibly hurt anything. And I don't think those need to be torqued to 1,000 foot-pounds, so we're just going to get them snug. Okay, valves are adjusted. Now we just need to clean the carburetor, or rebuild the carburetor. No, we'll just clean it. Okay, so the inlet area looks fairly clean, so we'll just take the bowl off of this, make sure the float moves around the way it's supposed to, and make sure the needle and seat looks clear and there's not a bunch of junk in the bottom of the carburetor. And then if this is the same or similar to a like a boat side draft carburetor, it probably has like a main jet that sucks fuel out of the bowl. We'll make sure that that's all clear as well. There's some type of adjustment on this here. I'm assuming that's some type of mixture adjustment there. Well, so far everything's looking it's really not that bad, considering that this was just left with whatever fuel was in it. We'll just clean this out, spray out some carb cleaner, spray some carb cleaner through the needle and seat, make sure that's nice and clear, and then it's probably time to put this back together and fire it up, see if it runs. Oh, that's all clear. I'm really surprised. Everything looks really good in this carburetor, so. Ah, it hurts. I'm not really sure if that's some kind of coating, but it's not coming off, so we're just gonna run with it. The last thing is whatever this, some type of mixture screw, like a idle mixture screw, or it might be, this is probably like a high-speed mixture screw because it's out of the main jet, or the main in the bottom. I'm guessing this is probably your idle mixture. That might be high speed. I'll look that up and we'll have to adjust that. But let's clean this out too. Everything has O-rings and gaskets that all look like they're still in good shape, so we'll just put this back together. So it says altitude adjustment on the side there. The only thing I can figure is that does something with the float on this little ridge that's right here. I'm not sure. We're gonna set it to 0 because we're pretty close to 0. We'll set it to just a little over 0. The heater for the choke feels like it's working okay. The diaphragm in the the choke pull off seems like it's okay. This actually doesn't seem like it's returning very good, but it might be because it's hot out here. I don't know. We'll pay attention to that once we get it on there. It doesn't go anywhere. Now that we got this all put back together, we're gonna go ahead and set it back on here and just put the 4 bolts back in it. Make sure your plug wire is not underneath it. Looks like at some time maybe the needle and seat was stuck on this. Somebody beat on that carburetor. Not while it was in my possession. Okay, so we want that to go on there, something like that. There's this little tang in here, you can see where they punched it through, that holds this loom in there. So we just need to pry it out. All right, there, now it'll hold it in there. And we can get the bolts back in. That just, with the aid of that other cover, sucks heat off the exhaust to warm this thing up in the wintertime. Don't imagine we'll probably ever need that feature here, but might as well keep it installed. Now we plug our plug wires back. Well, first we probably better hook up the governor. Take out our turning tool. We don't want to start it with that in there. Now we got to put that cover back on. All right. UPS is here. I wonder what they could have brought me. I think maybe it's a radiator. So even after, I don't know, 10 years, there's still what used to be gasoline, I don't know, probably a half a gallon or so in here, I guess. So I'm just gonna push as much of that as I can out with air into that drain pan over there. Is it coming out? Is it right now? Okay, we have fuel to here. We haven't got it past the fuel pump yet, so we're gonna just crank this because it doesn't have fuel pump unless it's cranking, and until we get some fuel coming out of here. Or maybe we don't get... Let me get a jumper wire and we'll just put power to that fuel pump, see if it's working. Okay, the fuel pump works. Don't worry, we're gonna wash this all before we do too much with it. All right, we'll run the fuel pump for a minute to prime it. Okay, I will see if it runs. Well, it runs, but for some reason it won't stay running. So something's wrong with the ignition circuit. It seems to be running right now. What I did is I couldn't find a wiring diagram. So I did what I always do when I can't find a wiring diagram, and I just unplugged everything, cleaned it all up, and put it all back together. Now it seems to be running okay. It's having a little trouble. The choke, it won't hot start. Once it's warmed up, like it's hot now, it's having a hard time restarting unless I just give it a little bit of choke. That could be because we still haven't got all that nasty gas washed out. We couldn't get the tank empty. So the gas is in there, still a little bit raunchy. It's not terrible, but I can smell it in the exhaust, so it's still in there. We're gonna go ahead and put this back together, let it run for a while. We checked, it is power in the lights inside the trailer, so that means it does have voltage output, or 110 or 120 output. So I'm gonna put it back together, and we're gonna cross our fingers and hope for the best. Hopefully it stays running. This fuse goes in and out really hard. I'm going to put a little dielectric grease on it. Okay, so I'm just going to hold the choke about halfway and see what happens. We'll try it again without messing with the choke, see what happens. Maybe I don't need to hold the choke. Should we temp fate? Try one more time. I think that'll be okay. We'll let this run a while over the next couple days and let it get good and cycled and make sure everything's working. I just realized I forgot to put that breather hose back on there, so I'm gonna take this cover back off and do that. Anyway, it runs. It's gonna keep our lights on, hopefully run a fan, maybe run air compressor, I don't know, we'll see. See you guys soon.